So welcome everybody to our discussion on conscious culture, and Liz, take it away.
Yeah, so welcome everyone. Thanks for coming out. And just really briefly, for those of you who may be new, we are C3MD, which is a local chapter for Conscious Capitalism, which is a national organization. And we host, this is part of our 4-part series that we do every year, where we cover each of the 4 pillars of conscious capitalism, which are purpose, stakeholder orientation, culture, and leadership. And so today we're talking about culture. So thank you, Wendy and Jeff, for coming out to help us with this discussion and sharing about your experience. So everyone here, I'm going to start off with some questions just to kind of get things going, but feel free in the chat to put in any questions that you'd like to ask Wendy and or Jeff or both. Wendy Baird, if you don't mind kind of monitoring that chat, because I'm not good at doing that and doing this at the same time.
We gotcha.
So let's start off with the first question. And Wendy, if you don't mind starting, and then we'll pass it off to Jeff. How do you define a healthy workplace culture? What's your definition?
I feel like, first off, thanks for inviting me to be here. And thanks to everybody who is here. I see a lot of my friends on this call. Hi. So it's good to see your faces, especially at 8 a.m. in the morning. 8 a.m. is early for me to be camera ready. I'm up and working, but it's early. So I feel like I could talk about this for 2 hours. And I love that Donna Weaver's here. Donna and I work together on the team. So I feel like she can speak to this too. I feel like the workplace and the work culture should feel good. Work should feel good. So defining that and then bringing people in who are attracted to that definition of how does work feel and does it feel good is going to be different, I think, for every company. For us, it boils down to, I think, making people feel seen for who they are as individuals, and then defining what are your values at work. So, for us, being collaborative is one of our core values. And I think that's a buzzword. It's cheesy, it's fake sometimes, and it's not fake for us. So I don't know, those are some of the things that I think about when we talk about healthy company culture. I tried to think of specific ways that we see this show up in our workplace. And I've been thinking about how we use Slack. And we have a lot of channels in Slack that other companies probably don't have. So we have typical channels like a please help me channel. And so people can go into that channel and ask for help, and other people can respond. But then we also have other channels like Good Vibes and Hysterical, where we put memes. We have a channel called Companies to Avoid. So if we've worked with vendors who didn't do a good job for us, we want to make sure that everyone on the team knows about that. So that's like really specific information about how collaboration shows up. But I think just making people feel seen as individuals and agreeing that you will bring that to the workplace as well. Donna?
I just want to say, because I wanted to add a little something to that as one of your teammates. So I think what we have, which is a little unique, is that it's a safe space to be who you are, to ask questions that maybe, you might think are silly, but everybody feels respected and everyone has a voice, and together we just are better.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. That's the goal. And I think once you achieve that, you have to protect it. Once you have an environment like that, you have to protect it and make sure that everyone's on board with that vibe, right, for the company. Thanks, Donna.
Yeah.
Thanks, Wendy. Jeff, how do you define a healthy workplace culture?
I agree with everything Wendy and Donna said. I'll echo all of that. Especially the being seen. There's a difference between being watched and being seen.
Yes.
And it's a very different cultural mindset. I came out of a large firm right out of law school, so I know what a working culture in a law firm should not be. Because it was, maybe I'm overstating when I say it was a toxic environment, but it was not a safe environment. You didn't feel respected. You didn't feel seen. That was a long time ago, but it informed how I've approached being an employer. And since I left the large law firm and became an employer, went out into a smaller firm, became a partner. Doors were closed a lot in the large firm, and I was convinced they were talking about me. So we avoided having closed door meetings and whispering and anything that's not open and transparent. So I think in order to have a culture, a conscious culture, you have to be very deliberate about it. You have to work on it. And Wendy, you said it, you have to maintain it. Once you have it, you have to protect it. But and I think Donna, you said a safe place. It has to be a safe place. I think that's so important. In fact, in one of our core values, and we have several, I'll go over those because I think, as Wendy said, I think having core values is at the heart of this. You've got to have strong core values, and you've got to communicate those. One of our core values is people, and within those core values, we have bullet points that describe what the elements of those core values are. And one of them is create a safe, respectful, and inclusive environment for all members of the team. Safe, respectful, and inclusive. Those are powerful words. They were missing from the firm I started with. So we went through. We're a firm that's now 21 years old. We started out with the usual strategic planning, facilitated strategic planning retreats, and came up with a great strategic plan almost 20 years ago. Recently, though, we decided to bring in a facilitator and work on our core values. And we spent a lot of time and money working on our core values. We knew we had to be deliberate about this. We had talked about them for years, but they were kind of out there. So now we worked very hard, first of all, with the founding part of the equity partners, spent many hours with a facilitator, came up with the core values, brought in some non-equity partners, then at the next level worked further on the values, and then brought in the whole team and worked further on the values. The product of that, by the way, was a PowerPoint presentation, which we'd be happy to share if anyone's interested in seeing it. But they come down to this, and some of them we put them, by the way, on a wooden block, which we share with all of our team members, so they remember them. Everybody's got this at their desk. Raising the bar is kind of our mantra. And then we have clients. Clients are the reason we exist. Excellence is another core value. Those are pretty predictable. I think most companies have a client-centric or customer-centric core value, and then one for excellence. But also, more important to this discussion, one of our values is simply people. And another one is community. And then finally, integrity. And those three are very powerful because they don't have so much to do with the services we provide, but how we treat our people. The people value is mainly directed at the people within our firm, our team members, and how we treat them. We mentor, we provide training, mentorship. And as I said, we provide a safe and respectful and inclusive environment for our people. We pride ourselves that we're a very nurturing firm, and we take care of our people. Also, we take care of our community. We all support communities that we're involved in. We encourage all attorneys to be on boards of directors and committees. And we've been doing that since we formed the firm, and before that, when we were Davis and Agnor and Rapaport and Skalny. We've always dedicated a lot of our time to pro bono work and involvement with community organizations. And we encourage all of our people, attorneys and staff, to embrace and support the communities they're involved in. We actually have a You Care, We Care program that once a year we pick a charity out of a hat. Everybody can contribute a name of a charity that's important to them. We randomly pick the name out of a hat and make a donation to that charity for that employee or that staff member. And then we send a blurb around to the firm telling about that organization and why they're important. So community is very important to us. And finally, integrity. Of course, integrity means being honest, being accountable. We're in a profession where honesty doesn't always prevail. Lawyers get a bad rap, but we take integrity very seriously. These core values comprise the categories that we measure people against in reviews. So we measure them against each of these core values. And when we get to integrity, if anybody has less than a 5, they're out. So we call it 5 or out. So integrity is very important. So we've been very deliberate about the culture. Wendy mentioned our physical design. We have a lot of open space. We've been in this space for 2 years, and it was informed by both COVID, he says as he coughs, excuse me, both COVID, the pandemic, and that experience. And also we brought in a consultant to interview our folks and see what was important to them. And the resounding message was, we want more collaborative space. We want more open space. We want to be working together. So what happened in this space was our offices shrank. Whether you're a senior partner or an attorney, associate right out of law school, you get the same size office. It's a small office with a desk and some shelves, and the desks automatically raise so you can make it into a standing desk. So it's pretty modern. But they're smaller offices, but a lot of collaborative space. We have 6 conference rooms and a huge area out front, which is kind of a cafe, where we regularly work and meet. We've created a more inclusive environment physically for our people, but that also supports our value of community, because we make that space available for nonprofit organizations and friends of the firm if they want to have. We had a retreat in here, a board retreat for a nonprofit organization that we support. So we let others use the space, and part of that community value involves convening groups, being a thought leader. So we're very much supportive of our communities, and I think that supports sort of the multi-stakeholder model of conscious capitalism. We try to support not only our clients, although that's the prime directive. We're here to serve clients, but also all of our other stakeholders, our employees, the communities we serve, and others that we do business with. And by the way, when we went through this, nobody ever mentioned the word conscious. No, as we went through we didn't use that nomenclature.
Right.
Most people don't, but we were mindful of the same principles and the same values that conscious capitalism embraces. So I'm very proud of that. I'm proud of I'm proud that I feel like we have, what was it, Wendy, you said, you got to be someplace you enjoy being. There's got to be a place where you want to come. After
Yes.
COVID, our folks were very willing to come back into the office. We thought it was very important that we not be remote. We thought it was very important that we be together. And we worked hard to create an environment where people would want to be, where they'd have fun. There's a lot of laughter through our hallways.
Yeah.
And nobody takes themselves seriously. Paralegal came down the hall the other day and said, "Shut up, Jeff." I said something. Everyone's laughing, making fun of each other, having a good time. The stress, we work very hard to make sure the stress comes from the outside, from the clients, from the world, from opposing counsel. We try not to have a stressful environment inside these walls. So I feel like people feel that they can come here, they're safe. They don't dread coming to work in the morning. And I feel very good about that. And again, I didn't want the kind of environment that I started practicing in right out of law school. I wanted something very different. And we all worked hard toward that. So.
All right, I have a few things to say about what Jeff just said. Is it okay, Liz?
Yes, go ahead.
So first off, Jeff, I think we're twins. Like everything that you're talking about coming from environments that were horrible. One of the questions that Liz asked us was, have you experienced conscious capitalism in other work environments? And my answer was absolutely not. Never, never. And so everything I learned was by being in those toxic work environments. There was discrimination. It was disrespect. You were not a person. You were just a number. You didn't matter. So I love how you learned, because that's how I learned as well. I learned by seeing what not to do. And I think probably everybody on this call has had those experiences, where you've been in an environment that you don't like. So that was the first thing I wanted to say. The second thing is I am a DARS client. So what I want to say about that, first off, when you have to hire a lawyer, you feel very grown up. Like that was the first time I ever had to hire a lawyer. And I was like, oh my God, I need a lawyer. As a client, engaging with everything that Jeff describes, you can feel that when you walk into their office. You can feel how they know each other. They know each other, and you can feel it when you walk in. You can see it in the little interactions. It's not a scary law firm. And that goes back to what Jeff was saying. Like he wanted to create a space where people felt comfortable. I did the same thing with my commercial space. We bought space in 2017 for the team. And the same as Jeff, like our industry and the work we do is very challenging. And I wanted to create a place where people could come in and take their mask off. A place where they did feel safe, as Donna said. And I think the physical space also plays a role in that. So like DARS, we have cafe style workplaces. I don't have an office. I used to, and I just, gave it up. So I float around like everyone else in the office. We have standing desk areas. We have a comfortable place with couches where people take their shoes off and sit cross-legged on their laptops. Like Jeff, the outside world is difficult. We want the inside to feel, like Donna said, and we want it to feel safe. And then back to all the core values. So one thing that you could think about doing, not Jeff, but like people on the call, is think about what your core values are, and are you communicating that to all of your stakeholders? So for example, our team brochure that we include in all of our buyer and seller folders, it's a 4-pager. Down the left side are our core values that we hold as a team. We have 10 core values. So we're not just only saying we're not keeping that inside and keeping it hidden. It sounds like Jeff is also making those core values public. I think it's important because it also allows you to attract the right client. Like, I'm not the right realtor for everybody. We're not the right real estate company for everybody. But when people see our core values and what matters to us, if they're in alignment, they're going to want to work with us. So those were a few things I just wrote down, notes I wrote down about Jeff.
Thanks,
thank you,
Wendy.
Wendy.
Did you see the question from Tim, Liz?
Yeah, we'll get to
Okay.
that in a minute. So Wendy, you mentioned learning what to do by observing what not to do in your
Mhm.
experience. Jeff, it sounds like you have a similar approach, but did you learn from some place that you wanted to emulate, or is this literally just, okay, we're going to do the opposite here?
And there were a number of us involved in developing the values. This was my personal input on the values, but I did not come out of an environment that was conscious. I came from I basically had two jobs my whole life. I started at a large firm right out of law school, where I stayed for a few years, and then joined Mike Davis, my current partner. So really in a predecessor firm, Davis and Agnor, but and that merged together with Rapaport and Skalny. So really, I kind of consider that the same firm, successor firm. But so I jumped from one culture to another. I've been in my professional life in two different environments. And so we developed this culture from my perspective, trying to avoid what I had been in. And I agree, Wendy, there was discrimination, there was harassment. This was in the 80s. This was in the late 80s. And again, I think nationwide, it was a different world back then. But
Right.
I thought coming out of law school, that's the workplace. That's what life is like.
Mhm.
And people were talking at the time about wanting more emphasis on lifestyle, quality of life. But the firm wasn't terribly receptive to that. So I knew exactly what I didn't want. And that I agree with Wendy. That's a hard teacher, but it is a good way to learn. By the way, Wendy, I agree we're twins, but I think I'm your evil twin. So
I don't think so. No, I think we're identical. We're identical twins.
Well, let's move on. So Tim gave us a question, which I'm actually really curious to hear the answer to. So I hear you guys talking about coming up with your values and really communicating with the team and with your clients and with the world. How do you balance a top-down versus a bottom-up approach to defining your values and communicating that and getting buy-in from your team?
So it is definitely a team approach in everything that we do. So when we were developing the core values, we did not do that in a vacuum. So we started internally with the team. This was years ago. I can't remember, but everyone on the team was in those meetings. Every person on the team was in those meetings. They did get updated and revised with some help from Wendy Muma, which was important. But yeah, it was not for me. It wasn't, it didn't come from me. It came from the group.
How about you, Jeff?
I
think you're on mute.
apologize. I'm dealing with some technology here.
Yep.
So you'll see I'm in two places at once. When we first got on, there was an echo. So I'm now on my cell phone, which I just realized is out of juice. So I had to plug it in. So anyway, so we were more top down in how we worked on our values, and the reason for that was we started with the founding partners and the equity partners because we had brought two firms together 21 years ago. We had a history. We had talked a lot about values over the years, and we felt it was important that we take the lead and revisit value statements we had made in the past and work really hard on creating an agenda for that. And then as we brought in the next level and then the next level, we were much more top down, but it worked for us because we had already given much thought to the values. Now we heard from everybody, and we heard from the staff That was very important. That was very interesting. We also heard from them when we went through the process of redesigning the office space when we moved. We had focus groups, lots of discussions with a consultant about what staff wanted as far as the office configuration. Found out, by the way, that, and this was hard news to hear, there were staff members who felt that the attorneys would go off and have lunch and ignore them. And there was kind of a, wouldn't call it hierarchical, but a separation between attorneys and staff. And that reminded me of my first job where we had attorney dining rooms and staff dining rooms. And within the attorney dining rooms, you had the important attorneys, the partners, and then you had all the other attorneys, and then you had the staff rooms, and they were all on one floor, and you weren't allowed into you were only allowed into your respective dining room to have lunch. That reminded me of that, and so so we were very responsive to that. We make sure now we have this in this cafe. People have somewhere to go for lunch, and without going outside the building, without being stuck in a tiny little kitchen. And so that's lent itself to a very collaborative and inclusive environment. We also have regular meetings in the common area where we recognize attorneys and staff who have done an exemplary job in practicing one of our values and achieving one of our values, and we give awards for that. And recognition, and we have a lot of social events where everyone's involved. So we were very responsive to that. So we did pay a lot of attention to what people thought our values should be, and that informed our decision. But we started from a top-down, more of a top-down position.
Okay, I have to comment. So what I heard Jeff say was he was open to learning about what wasn't working, and he's there for the tough conversations, and he took action around the feedback. So that's part of a conscious culture to me.
Mm-hmm.
I love hearing that. I love it. And going back to at the beginning when I talked about once you feel like you've got something good going, right? Work feels good. People are laughing. People feel seen. People are also crying. That doesn't mean that it's not a conscious culture. It means that people feel safe to express their feelings at work. And you feel protective of that. I feel like what you were talking about there is about that too, is you're there for the tough conversations when something feels like it's off track, when you feel like you're moving away from the conscious, culture. And sometimes you can't even figure out at first, like what's off, something's off. We got to figure it out, tweak it, and get back in our good lane. That's what I'm hearing Jeff talk about is, you're revisiting it. You're not just done. You don't arrive. There's no arriving. The other thing I liked about what Jeff said was there wasn't language for what he was creating. He didn't say conscious capitalism. And I think that's what's cool about this group is it does put words and concepts around, it defines some of the things that Jeff, you did in reaction to the negativity that you experienced at that first firm.
Mm-hmm.
So Wendy, you brought up a good point about when you feel things kind of going off track and bringing them back in. I'm asking both of you, what do you think sometimes gets in the way? Like, is there a theme, or like, what do you sometimes sense gets in the way of a conscious culture or a healthy culture? We'll just call it that.
I mean, for us, I think it's just life. I think it's when, shit goes down. You know what I mean? Like you forget, or you forget that you're supposed to eat well. You forget that you're supposed to get 8 hours of sleep. You forget you're supposed to work out. Like those things that are your foundation start to disappear. That's what I see in myself and I see in others around me. And usually there's a reason for that, right? Maybe your parent is ill. There's a million reasons out in the world why your foundation gets crumbly. And I think part of being, I don't know, 54 years old and, just being a middle-aged person is like, I'm here for it. I'm here for the tough conversation. I'm here to give you space while you're not well, while your life is a shit show. Because that's for all of us. It happens to all of us. So that's one big thing I see is if somebody's going through something and things just start to get shaky with boundaries, self-care, all the things, right, that keep us grounded and whole and feeling good. The other thing that has happened for us, and I take full responsibility for it, is I've brought on the wrong people. So I've let people in who I believed, when we're going through the interview process. I'm terrible at hiring. So, you have to know what you're not good at, and then you have to get resourced, right? Like, what are you not good at? Bring people in to help you. So I have brought in other people when we're hiring because I only see the good things that people say. I love people leave the room and I'm like, oh my God, they're amazing. And someone else in the room is like, yeah, but did you not hear the other 10 things that are not going to work for us? I'm like, yeah, I didn't hear those. So that's the other time that we've had, and I'm sure Donna knows what I'm talking about, but we've brought people in who were not the right fit for us. They sometimes real estate agents are very transactional. They're very spreadsheety, transactional, whatever, and that is the opposite of who we are. We're very relational, and it's like when you have a glass of water and you drop red dye in it, it's hard to get the red dye out. It's that kind of a thing. So we've had to course correct a few times.
Am I muted? No. I couldn't agree more, Wendy. Every now and then we hire somebody who's not a good fit. We try to find people that fit our culture. We pay a lot of attention to that in addition to the job skills that we're seeking. It's very hard, of course, these days to find people.
Yeah.
So that increases that challenge. But we have brought in people that were the wrong fit. I don't know if any of you have ever read the book. It's worth reading. 7 Dysfunctions of a Team.
Oh.
It's really a good read. A lot of us read this years ago. But when somebody's not a team player, they're not embracing your values, and I would say that would be the number one impediment. If we have somebody who's not embracing or practicing the values, we insist they embrace these values. They're not very controversial, frankly. And if they can't, then they're not going to work. So the other thing I would say, I love what you said. Stuff happens. And life happens. I would say also the outside world creeps in. Sometimes the environment gets stressful because we're dealing with stressful. I don't do litigation. I do business work, but it's got its own stresses when you're trying to close a deal. But the litigators, especially when they're dealing, it's an adversarial practice. It's a contact sport, the law. You're fighting constantly and advocating. So sometimes it gets ugly, and that ugliness can creep in. It can get tense. There are late hours. We try not to have late hours, but sometimes it can't be avoided. So things get tense, and then how do you manage that stress? Happily, I think we've done a good job not letting it affect our interactions overall. But that is something we've got to be mindful of. I get caught up in a deal. I'm not paying attention to what's going on around me. I'm a guy, so I'm not multitasking as well as I should, and being as mindful as I should. So I would say those things, but mainly not bringing in the right person and someone who doesn't embrace your values. I can't emphasize enough, whether you have it professionally facilitate it or you just do it internally. Either way is fine. But I would say any business owner should take time and be very deliberate about thinking hard about what their values are, putting them in writing, communicating them, and then insisting on adherence to those values.
Yeah. And Wendy, I see you found the book Five Dysfunctions by Pat Lachani. That is the book. And I highly recommend it too. I've read it. Jeff, I have a question. You talked about the stress and anxiety when the pressure's on and, you know, there's a lot going on at work and sometimes people are having to put in late hours. How do you have any tips for how to manage that anxiety? Not just individually, but how it affects the whole team?
Yes, and I think it's important that team members be aware and offer to help, offer to pitch in. We have weekly meetings, at least in my group, the business and transactional group. I think the other groups do as well. Once a week, we get together and find out who's working on what and who's got too much work, who has capacity. I think it's very important to walk down the hall and say, I see you're busy, can I help? That sounds obvious, but that can go a long way if you can lighten somebody's load. I think keeping a sense of humor, especially when you're a boss, when you're a manager, keeping a sense of humor, even though you're stressed out, putting a good face on it, and letting people know this isn't the end of the world. This deal will be done, or this trial will be done, and it's not what defines us. It's not going to kill us. And keep putting things in perspective for those who are watching you, and setting the right example. Again, trying to maintain the culture inside as much as you can instead of getting too caught up in the moment. Being very deliberate about that.
Yeah. How about you, Wendy? Any tips?
I mean, it's everything that Jeff said, and I see Donna nodding as Jeff is talking. I mean, you know, I'm picturing recently a bunch of us were in the conference room. Donna had an issue, and Tess was sitting next to her. Tess is our team manager, and there were 3 or 4 realtors in the room, and we're all brainstorming on Donna's issue. And Tess is frantically typing, taking notes about the conversation, about what to say, how to word it, you know, how to move forward. It was a legal, you know, a serious legal issue. And not that we were practicing law, because we do not do that. We would never do that. But just putting together a good email over to the, you know, the other agent who was involved, and causing a lot of stress for us and our client, because she didn't do what she was supposed to do. And so here's the thing too, I'm thinking about. In a way, this definitely keeps our stress lower. Instead of operating, we call it above the line or below the line. And Wendy Baird, maybe you could put a link to that YouTube video in the chat. It's such a great video. We watch this video like twice a year, just as a reminder. So in our industry, there are some really mean bullies. And there's a lot of vinegar, and we like to use sugar. We want to keep a good relationship with our competitors in our field. So sure, Donna could have I don't know why that's popping up. I didn't mean for that to pop up. Donna could have gone in a separate office and typed up a nasty email, not that Donna would, and fired it off and just created more anxiety and stress and problems. But instead, we crafted as a group a kind response to somebody who really screwed up and was, you know, going to have to probably pay fines, the agent. So that's another way to keep anxiety low, right? Have your initial knee-jerk reaction. It's fine. Use all the bad words, get it out. We don't want to spiritually bypass ever, right? Acknowledge the real feelings, but then give yourself a minute, bring in some support, and, you know, stay above the line. It benefits us. Let me tell you how it benefits us. When we work with buyers, listing agents, let's say there are 10 offers on a house. Those listing agents call us first, even when our offer is lower than the other offers, because they want to work with us, because we get it done and we're fun to work with. When there are problems, we don't lose our minds. We might in the office privately, but we don't do it publicly with other people. So our buyers have an advantage because they get that like first right of refusal. Donna, were you going to say something?
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, I'm so thankful, you know, as a team member to be in that environment when something goes awry. Because I do pride myself on collaborating with all the co-op agents that we work with. And sometimes there are things that arise that are just out of your control. And being able to calmly respond to it and figure it out is what I'm all about. And having the support from the team to do that just makes my life so much less stressful.
Thank
So
you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for saying that. So just to like tie this into culture, like the impact of culture, it impacts everything. It impacts all the work you're doing that's client facing, all your client facing work. So creating that safe physical, you know, and emotional space, I think has really made all the difference.
I love that, Wendy, how you said that. And culture is everything. And I forgot from years ago, somebody that was involved in this chapter, I forgot who it was, said that culture is everything. And it does, it touches everything you do. And it's your inward facing and outward facing self as a company. What you said about being civil when the rest of the world isn't, we have as one of our elements under our values, it's that civility is not a form of weakness, or is not a sign of weakness.
Love that.
That's really important in our profession, because I think
Yeah.
some attorneys think that if they yell and scream and pound their fist on the table and they're ruthless and all of that, they're going to get better results. And that's not the case. One of the attorneys, by the way, that was not an original comment. One of the attorneys, it wasn't me. I had a similar experience though years ago. We were, well, as younger attorneys, several of us used to be a little more aggressive, a little more vocal, let's say, and we've learned through wisdom, through time, to chill out. So, and embrace these values. But this one attorney was told that by another attorney, an older attorney, who said, you know, civility is not a sign of weakness. And it stunned him. It stung him. It shamed him. And he thought about that ever since. And it's, and then once I was negotiating, arguing with another attorney, and I kind of lost my cool a little bit. And I felt the attorney was trying to take advantage. And he said, Jeff, you're better than this. And that stung. That was right, like a knife through my heart. And I thought, you know what, this isn't who I am. Yeah. So maintaining that, I think civility is a sign of strength. And I think it's very important that the people that you work with see that and see you model that. Because in the long, maybe you'll get a short-term gain by being uncivil. Maybe you'll scare somebody, but you're not going to win you'll win a battle or a skirmish, but not the war. Right. We have the other thing I learned early in my career, is when you're dealing with another attorney and you find out they made a mistake in the document that you're negotiating, this document drafting, going back and forth, red lines, and you see that they wrote in something that was wrong. It wasn't the deal, but it benefits your client. And I think a lot of attorneys would say, that's his job. I'm not going to tell him he made a mistake. I teach people here that I'm mentoring, tell them if they made a mistake, correct their mistake. And because that stays true to what the parties intended. You're staying true to the deal, and you're not trying to get some cheap advantage by somebody else's mistake. That has won me a lot of goodwill with other attorneys. When people know that you're ethical, and you'll do the right thing, you get, and that's not why I do it. I do it because it's the right thing. I do it because that's what my father told me. Always, no matter what, do the right thing. And I think that's important. We teach our people that, and it goes to the in whatever business you're in, having that mindset, sacrificing small advantages for doing the right thing. People are watching. You don't think they're watching sometimes, but they are, and it comes. You hear about it later, and you realize you've got this thing called reputation that takes years to develop and can be lost very quickly if you're not doing the right thing.
One question that I always ask people coming in, it's tradition, that I want, if you guys could just briefly answer, because I do want to have at least a couple minutes to open up for Q&A for the rest of the group. What gives you hope?
In what context? In just in general, and hope
Well,
in
it
the
could be.
world, or
I'm open to in general. I think that in the context of this group, maybe in the context of business, but I'm open to beyond that.
I'll
Or
go.
workplace.
I'll go. Honestly, just this group gives me hope. I was talking to Paul last night, I believe, and there are so many people out there that are successful but not doing what they should be, and my belief is giving back to the community you serve and helping out. I mean, I'm an empath, so it gives me hope to see so many successful people getting there by doing ethical things, and that is amazing because you see all the time of the quote unquote successful people that are not doing what they should be doing. So this gives me hope.
And I would like to add something. My name is May Beal. What gives me hope is that I always say you should like yourself, because I always say I love May Beal. I say because I love May Beal the person, and I say that because I fought so hard to be her. So one of the things I tell everyone, just be yourself and do what you think is right to do, because people see things through different lenses. We forget that. And sometimes we spend all our lives, many of us, trying to be validated by someone else. And what gives me hope, long as I feel within myself, I'm doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do. And everybody, and I will be the first to say, you're going to get hit with sticks and stones and everything else if you're doing the right thing. But sometimes you have to press on. And it's not a good thing sometimes, because your spirit can get vexed. But I just sometimes get so disenchanted, especially because I serve on numerous of boards, and I kind of compare which ones I like. And Jeff made I just enjoy him because I'm a client of Doris as well. I enjoy coming in because first thing I go to the snack bar, then I go to my meeting. But I'm so glad I took time out to come to this meeting this morning. I got to leave shortly because I got another meeting to go to. But I think these are very helpful because you get to hear from different people. You get to hear different sides and know that you're not alone in your struggle. And I'm going to keep quiet because I'm a talker as well. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
I agree with Zach, by the way. Zach, you said it so well. This group gives me hope. It's so refreshing to hear people in business who really care. We don't have these conversations enough.
No.
And I feel like we do in our firm, but there's a cynicism out there. I'm not going to get on a soapbox, but I don't know what's happened to the world. And my wife and I were talking about it this morning. I thought at my age, by the time I got to my age, I didn't ever think I'd say, I don't get it. I don't know what's happening in the world. And this gives me hope that all of you who care enough to talk about these things and embrace these values, it means a lot.
Donna? We can't hear you.
You're on mute, Donna.
Okay, I just turned it off. Thank you. So I think I just believe that people that are doing the right thing and making a positive impact in the world, in your community, somehow find each other. And
Mhm.
it's about connecting. And I find that in my life, and I'm very thankful for that. So that's hopeful to me.
Thanks, Donna. And Vance shared, it just disappeared. Seeing hundreds of local entrepreneurs going for their dreams with positive impact baked in from the start.
So I hate to do it, but we have to start thinking about wrapping up. And I just want to thank everybody for being here, but I also wanted to introduce everybody to our president, Camille Maslov, and she was going to share a little bit about our next meeting.
Yeah, hello everyone. Thank you so much, Jeff and Wendy. Really appreciate. I scribbled a lot of notes from your interaction today, and I really appreciate everything that you shared. Everyone who's attended today, this morning, thank you for coming out so early. I really appreciate that as well. I know that we're recording, but if you want to get to know any of the people that are in this on your screen, then please feel free to share your contact information. I know for a fact that many of you on this screen, all of you actually, have a lot to share, a lot of impact that you've made in our community. So I really appreciate all of you. Please save the date for our next in-person session. That will be on September 12th at the Dars Law Firm. Thank you, Jeff. It's September 12th from 5:30 to 7:30. So I hope to see all of you there. Tell your friends. You're all welcome. And let's see, some other things that you may notice if you're a member currently of Conscious Capitalism of Central Maryland, you may have been getting some information from our national headquarters. We are in the process of integrating into the national headquarters, into the national chapter. And what that does is allows us to have more support on the back end. Our board will have more support. We'll have more marketing support. We'll be able to get, hopefully more events out for everyone to come in, engage more, grow our chapter. So as we're working through that, you'll see a lot of communication between our chapter and national. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me, Liz, anyone, to Wendy, any of our board members as we're going through this transition. If you have any questions now, even, we have a couple more minutes. See if I have anything else to add. Liz, Wendy, Paul, anyone, anything to add, to share with her?
Just that you can always go to our website and take a look at what's going on. We will be transitioning that soon too, but it will redirect to the national office. But we'd love for you to, if you're not a member, join. In September, we're going to be talking about AI from a conscious business perspective. So we're beginning to put that panel together. So it should be really, really good. And that will be at Dars Law. And
Yeah.
Ignite Howard County in October is coming up. So soon you'll start to see, we're the organizing partner for that. And soon you'll start to see some communications around that. We would love for you to spread the word about that and become involved.
Absolutely looking forward to seeing some of you applying to be speakers as well for Ignite. So, but yes, so definitely appreciate everyone. This has been amazing, great conversation. And again, get to know each other. Great support on this call.
Yeah, and if you didn't fill out the poll, please do, because right now it's kind of even Steven. Looks like we've got 6 people who prefer 8 a.m. before work and 5 that prefer like a lunch and learn time. So we might have to mix it up a bit. But thanks so much.
And thanks
Yeah.
again, Wendy, for Jeff for sharing and sharing your stories.
We really
Thank you.
appreciate you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you for inviting us.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Liz. Thank you for convening this. This was a really enjoyable conversation.
It was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved it.
Great way to
Yeah.
start the day.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm so
Yes.
glad I was able to join.
Yes.
Thank
Thank
Yeah.
you.
you,
Good to
May.
see you, May.
Thanks so much.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank
Thank
Take
you,
care.
everybody.
Thanks,
Bye,
everyone.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye now. Bye-bye.
Super meeting. Thank you.